This is the news on NTA International, and I am Lami Ali with the headlines. Ministry of Science and Technology to look inwards for solutions to tackle effects of COVID-19. Federal government directs issuance of licenses for export of Nigerian agricultural commodities amid COVID-19 lockdown. And 11 ISWAP fighters surrender to troops of Operation Lafiya Dole. Many thanks for joining us on the news. Nigeria's confirmed cases from coronavirus surpass 5,000 as the virus pushes Germany into recession. Let's join Adebola Brooksland Sunday for an update on COVID-19.
305,125 persons have died globally from the dreaded coronavirus, as displayed on the Johns Hopkins University COVID-19 dashboard as at about 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Out of the 4,575,126 confirmed cases, from which 1,727,999 have recovered. Preliminary data shows that German economy has contracted by 2.2% in the first quarter of 2020, its steepest three-month slump since the 2009 financial crisis, as shops and factories were shut in March to contain the spread of COVID-19. Europe's largest economy fell by 2.3% from January to March, after a 0.4% expansion in the previous 3 months. Meanwhile, a World Health Organization's modeling study has indicated that the coronavirus could kill 150,000 people in Africa and infect 231 million persons in a year unless urgent action is taken. Authors of the research said even though many African nations have been swift to adopt containment measures, health systems could still quickly become overwhelmed, and that would divert already limited resources to tackle major health issues in the region. On the dashboard of Africa Center for Disease Control on coronavirus, 75,866 persons have been infected with COVID-19, out of which 27,425 have recovered and 2,570 fatalities recorded on the continent. Back home, tally from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control shows that the center has tested 30,657 persons, from which 4,971 samples showed positive. 1,180 patients have been discharged, leaving the country with 3,815 active cases, and while 167 people have died. So far, there is no change on the top of the table, likewise those at the bottom of the log. I am Adebola Brooksland Sunday. Thanks for your time.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, announced that more than 792 million naira was donated by Nigerians to support the national response against the coronavirus. The PTF chairman says the task force discourages the management of coronavirus cases by private hospitals not accredited. He said 5 states in Nigeria are participating in the ongoing WHO-coordinated solidarity trial for COVID-19 cure, as PTF supports the development of a cure for coronavirus based on laid-down protocols. He explained that PTF's preliminary analysis has narrowed down 51% of the total number of infected persons to 9 local government areas that are densely populated across the country.
Testimonies of Nigerians who have recovered from COVID-19, which has given us more insight and further strengthens the need to adhere strictly to guidelines issued. However, an emerging issue from all these testimonies is the issue of prescription for treatments. We should always remember that the symptoms of COVID-19 mimic some illnesses we already know but treating the symptoms is not the same as treating the virus. And for this reason, we strongly discourage self-medication.
It is important that persons that have symptoms consistent with COVID infection come forward and share their history and possible contacts so that we can isolate, test, and treat them.
Now, the International Day of Families is observed annually on May 15th. In the era of coronavirus pandemic, the day is more touching as many families in Nigeria and across the globe are affected as the curve of infections keep rising on a daily basis. Families are no doubt going through turbulent times owing to the devastating effects of COVID-19. As the Day of Families is observed, we have in the studio the Minister of Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Tallen, to speak on efforts by the federal government to ameliorate the hardship families are facing amid COVID-19. Glad to have you join us on the news. We're glad to have you join us on the news, Minister.
Thank you. Good evening.
Now, the family as a unit helps overcome social and individual fears. In times like this, how is your ministry reaching out to families in terms of emotional support?
Thank you very much. I join all Nigerians, both here and in diaspora too, as we celebrate the International Day of the Family. This day is significant because the family is the unit of the society. If we have a good family, we'll have a good society, and a good society breeds a good nation. It is sad that this year we are celebrating the International Day of the Family in the midst of this pandemic of COVID-19. COVID-19 has ravaged the world, and Nigeria is no exception. My ministry is doing its best to reach out to families and give them succor in forms of palliatives and also counseling. I'm sure you'll agree with me that the world over and Nigeria has recorded very high incidence of domestic violence due to the lockdown. It is not just in Nigeria but the world over because most families are not used to staying under the same roof for 24 hours, and we find ourselves locked down for 5 weeks, and now we are going into the second, even the third month. It is quite a trying moment for every Nigerian, particularly the families. And women are the most hit because the family is most hit, where children are out of school, they are locked down at home. The family is grappling with ensuring that the family is kept safe, ensuring that the children are safe, and ensuring that they are kept healthy.
Now, aside of matters concerning the safety of family, the coronavirus pandemic is affecting the income and day-to-day sustenance of many families. Now, what is government doing to ease the plight of vulnerable households?
Government is doing quite a lot and in ensuring that the vulnerable households are supported with palliatives and some stipends. You will agree with me, the Ministry of Humanitarian has been reaching out while we've been doing our own best reaching out. The social investment program, where families have been given 20,000 to support them by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Mr. President has done his best in supporting families in this most trying moment. And well-meaning Nigerians have reached out in different ways. I commend all Nigerians that have reached out to families that are in distress, that have also been supporting. So many philanthropic organizations have reached out with palliatives to support families. I call on all well-meaning Nigerians to keep reaching out, to be our neighbors' keepers, to support families in this time of
Now,
trial.
considering the amount of support that the vulnerable are receiving, and you also talked about your engagements with the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, indeed, you confirmed that palliative was given to the Ministry of Women Affairs to distribute. Now, what strategy is being employed to ensure equitable distribution across areas?
Thank you very much. We have a clear structure of different women organizations that are registered with the ministry. We have NGOs that are registered with the ministry. The whole process was done very transparently, and most of all the beneficiaries were very satisfied and happy. We still are seeking for more because it's just like a drop in the sea. A lot more needs to be done, and I call on well-meaning Nigerians to support government. Government alone cannot carry this heavy burden. So philanthropic organizations, well-meaning Nigerians should reach out to support the ministry to ensure that we reach out to more families and more vulnerable groups.
We thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
In the last couple of minutes, I've been speaking with the Minister for Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Tallen. Now, moving on to other issues, the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology is set to deploy a public-private partnership model to make states and local governments the veritable engine houses of value-added technology and innovation-driven socio-economic growth after the COVID-19. Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogbonnaya affirmed this during a lecture he presented to participants of the Senior Executive Course 42 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, Kuru.
COVID-19, the most resounding word now globally. A very historic and unique period when the pandemic is ravaging many countries' economy and social life. Analysts have said while some nations are rising, others are falling, and as some nations become more prosperous, others become poorer. This is because all nations will carry the burden, bear the pains, and suffer the agony of the pandemic. But not many nations will benefit from the opportunities that will certainly come. The Nigerian government says it is ready to start planning on how to take advantage of the opportunities of the historic moment. And this is where the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology comes in to say that already policies have been put in place to prepare the nation for a post-crude oil era. Consequently, as the fight to defeat COVID-19 in the country gains momentum, the science and technology sector is working to develop homegrown solutions to meet urgent national needs through effective application of science, technology, and innovation.
It has always been wise to use the sunny day to prepare for the rainy day. The Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, in collaboration with critical organized private sector organizations, a global commercialization group, credible and highly reputable media platforms, and experts, as well as carefully selected and best practicing researchers, will set in motion an innovative and homegrown value-added programs through research and innovation.
The PPP model intended to be deployed by the ministry is said to be a win-win endeavor that state governors will find most sustainable for achieving prosperity. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
And from Jigawa comes the report that the state government begins the establishment of COVID-19 testing laboratory in Dutse for testing of suspected cases with a view to containing community spread of the virus. Mohammed Musa Askira reports that this is in addition to the payment of stipends to frontline health workers in the state who are currently undergoing extensive training on how best to curtail the spread of the virus.
Governor Muhammad Badru Abubakar stated that the provision of COVID-19 testing laboratory in the state will fast-track the process of tracing suspected cases for quick testing, as the delay in the process aids more spread of the virus among the residents of the affected communities. To spur renewed commitment in the discharge of their duties, the governor has approved daily payments of 10,000 naira stipend for doctors among other frontline health workers in the state. Experts, according to Governor Badru, have projected that Jigawa may record more than 20,000 coronavirus cases in the state if stringent measures are not put in place to prevent community transmission of the disease. As the lockdown continues in 5 out of the 27 local governments in the state, Governor Muhammad Badru Abubakar stated that more palliatives are on the way to the less privileged to cushion the effects of stay-at-home order.
Our major concern in this pandemic is to prevent our people from acquiring this infection and improve survival of infected. All COVID-19 patients currently on admission, aside two with pre-morbid conditions, are doing well, and the treatment protocol deployed by the state seems to be yielding results.
As at the time of filing this report, Jigawa has 118 confirmed cases, out of which 63 are among the returnee Almajiri peoples, who represent 53% of the state total infection so far, with 7 persons recovered from the disease, while 2 persons have died. From Dute, Muhammad Musa Askira, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja. More news after the break.
Action. Make your home the place to be with GoTV's super cool kids channels.
That sounds fun.
From funky friends that'll keep even the little ones busy.
All right, everybody, let's do this!
To learn as you watch educational shows for curious young minds.
You can do some amazing things.
There's plenty for everyone. Tune in to our kids shows and get everything you need to keep the kids entertained and learning the fun way. GoTV. Live it, love it.
Now believe this Koroti. You know if you touch black man. If you like, gather the whole Niger, come together, make the cough. Nothing.
Which one you want?
Give me V&D.
I beg, get small pieces.
How much you want to give him?
Give me 200. Take your change now.
You don't want your change.
My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. May una wash una hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so it no get leg. Now we dey waka kurukere. No waka around, make the virus for die. No forget, say the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
You're welcome back. A total sum of 606.196 billion naira was shared between the 3 tiers of government as federal allocation for the month of April 2020. This was arrived at by the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, at its meeting via virtual conferencing chaired by the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Dr. Mahmoud Issa Dutse. A communique issued at the end of the meeting indicates that the gross revenue available from the value-added tax VAT for April 2020 was 94.495 billion naira, a decrease of 25.772 billion naira over March. The distributed statutory revenue of 370.411 billion naira received from the month was also lower than the previous months by 227.265 billion naira. The communique also revealed that petroleum profit tax, PPT, companies income tax, CIT, import and export duties, oil and value-added tax all recorded decreases. The total revenue distributable for the current month, including cost of collection, according to the committee, is 606.196 billion naira. Now, the federal government has directed the Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service to commence issuance of licenses for exports of Nigeria agricultural commodities in the wake of the COVID-19 lockdown. The export certification operation is to facilitate agro-commodities trade in the international markets to end foreign exchange. following dramatic falls in crude oil revenues and other efforts.
Immediately the approval was given, already we have done 1 week of exports. The commodity for which we found airlines, to export is vegetable. So far, 8.3 metric tons of vegetable has been exported through one airline alone, that came to pick their own nationals. And as they were going back, we had to make arrangements for them to carry some luggage in their cargo compartments of vegetables. That is through the Lagos to do 8.3 metric tons of vegetables.
In the meantime, the federal government has approved 18,000 metric tons of improved seeds to be sold in the Nigerian markets. Director General, National Seed Council, Olusegun Philip Ojo says mechanism has been put in place towards ensuring that the commodities are not adulterated or hijacked by big merchants.
The industry have available at the disposal of the accredited seed companies across the country about 81,000 metric tons of certified seeds of rice, maize, sorghum, cowpea, millet, groundnut, wheat, sesame, and potato that are ready for deployment and purchase by farmers for production of food and raw materials for Nigerians. As the industry is preparing to put this quantity of certified seeds to the market, companies like every other farmer are also preparing to go to their fields to plant so that we can have adequate quantities of seed for the next cropping season.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has handed over a property forfeited by the former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Izani Alison Madueke, to Lagos State for use as isolation center for COVID-19 patients. The property, consisting of 6 flats of 3-bedroom and boys' quarters, was forfeited by the former minister following an order of the Federal High Court, Lagos, in 2017. Zonal Director of the Commission, Mohammed Rabu, says the gesture is part of the Commission's corporate social responsibility towards fighting the coronavirus pandemic. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu thanks the Commission for the gesture, describing it as a welcome collaboration between the federal government and Lagos State. Meanwhile, the Ministerial Task Force on COVID-19, in collaboration with the government of Kano State, is putting together a one-day training for journalists on prevention and safety protocols as frontline workers in the fight against the dreaded coronavirus. In a statement, the Kano State Commissioner for Information, Malam Muhammad Garba, states that they said 100 journalists working from the print and broadcast media at the state and national level are expected to participate at the training scheduled to hold on Saturday, May 16, 2020. He said the training session was informed by the need. He said the training session He said to ensure that journalists, who are the mirror of every nation and engine of growth, stay safe as they discharge their professional responsibility to keep the public informed on the pandemic. Moving on, the Buhari Media Organization, BMO, says former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is in no position to offer economic advice to the President Muhammadu Buhari administration, judging by his limited knowledge of contemporary economics. The group, in a statement signed by its chairman, Niya Kinsiju, says Atiku's description of the 0.6% slash in the 2020 budget as window dressing betrayed his shallow understanding of basic economics and his penchant for grandstanding. The media group therefore urges Nigerians not to be deceived by the former vice president's grandstanding, which it described as a ploy to keep him in the public space, a readiness for yet another attempt at appropriating the national treasury for himself and his cronies. 11 Islamic State of West Africa province ISWAP fighters have surrendered to troops of Operation Lafia Dole in Adamawa State. The coordinator, Media Defense Operations, Major General John Enenche, announced this at a periodic news conference in Abuja. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa has the story.
This number of surrendered BHT ISWAP fighters is an indication of the heat of our operational activities on the terrorists due to the renewed impetus in the theater to end the criminality.
The conference, which held at the Defense Headquarters Abuja, bring up to speed joint military and other security agencies' operations. Within the last week, top recent success recorded in the ongoing Operation Lafia Dole is the killing of a total number of 61 terrorists, arrest of 22 criminal collaborators, and the rescue of 72 abducted people.
More terrorists are willing to surrender. One of such moves was the dropping up of 72 family members of BHT ISWAP members at the entrance of Ngala town in Ngala local government area of Borno State. This comprised of 33 women and 39 children. All of them are in the custody of troops for further action.
Similarly, troops of Operation Wild Stroke in Benue State responded to a distress call and neutralized 4 assailants and recovered arms.
The High Command is calling on parents to advise their wards and subjects not to succumb to inducements by the terrorists, as the armed forces of Nigeria remains decisive to end the insurgency and other security challenges in the country.
The Defense Headquarters notes that it has upscaled its operations across the country. Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Still on security, a combined team of the Nigerian Immigration Service and the Nigerian Navy operatives has intercepted 10 Nigerians heading to Cameroon amidst the border closure to curb the spread of COVID-19. A statement by the Nigerian Immigration Service Public Relations Officer, DCI James, indicates that the group of 10, 2 from Cross River and 8 from Akwa Ibom State, were arrested at Eshiet Village, Adadia Control Post Axis in Oran local government area of Akwa Ibom State. The 10 have been profiled by the Nigerian Immigration Service and subsequently handed over to health officials for medical checks to ascertain their COVID-19 status before they were returned to their localities. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari greets journalist and publisher Ayo Bamidele Abayomi Ojotulegan Ajani Momodu, popularly known as Zele Momodu, on the occasion of his 60th birthday. A statement signed by the Special Advisor to the President, Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina. The President congratulates Momodu for attaining the milestone in good health and sound mind. President Buhari rejoices with the family, friends and professional colleagues of the publisher of Ovation International, saying he has left indelible footprints in the annals of journalism in Nigeria. And that does it on the news at this time on NTA International. We thank you for watching. I am Lami Ali.